68 years old, and I thought I was bulletproof. I'd survived Vietnam, raised 3 kids, built a successful construction business from nothing. Independence wasn't just a value, it was my identity. Then my neighbor found me unconscious in my garden. Apparently, I'd been there for hours after collapsing while watering my tomatoes. That wake-up call led me down a path I never expected, discovering 7 critical warning signs that separate men who age successfully from those who lose everything they've worked for. What I'm about to share isn't just advice. It's hard-earned wisdom from watching too many good men wait too long to admit they needed help. These warning signs don't appear overnight. They creep in slowly, disguised as normal aging, until one day you realize the foundation of your independence has been crumbling beneath your feet. The difference between recognizing these signs early and ignoring them can literally be the difference between life and death. I've arranged these 7 signs by urgency, but the most overlooked and potentially deadly comes last. That 7th sign will completely change how you think about aging alone, and it's happening to millions of men right now. If you're ready for uncomfortable truths that could save your independence, hit subscribe and let's dive in. Number 1, when the digital world leaves you behind, you're more alone than you think. This might seem like the least urgent warning sign, but I'm putting it first because in today's world, being digitally disconnected can literally cut you off from life-saving resources, according to recent research. 1/3 of older Americans cite data privacy as the biggest barrier to technology adoption, while 20% struggle with ease of use and 19% need better setup support. Let me tell you about Marcus, a 73-year-old former electrician from Minnesota. Marcus could wire an entire house, understood complex electrical systems, but when his landline was discontinued and his doctor's office switched to online appointment scheduling, he found himself completely lost. His smartphone sat in a drawer, unused and intimidating. The crisis came when Marcus experienced severe chest pain one evening. He couldn't remember how to call emergency services on his smartphone, and his old rotary phone had been disconnected months earlier. Marcus spent precious minutes fumbling with the device, nearly passing out before accidentally triggering the emergency function. Those lost minutes could have cost him his life, but Marcus's troubles didn't end there. During recovery, he missed critical follow-up appointments because they were scheduled through an online portal he couldn't access. His prescriptions weren't refilled because the pharmacy had switched to app-based notifications he never received. His insurance claims were delayed because important documents were sent via email that sat unread in an inbox he didn't know how to check. Here's the brutal reality. Our entire support system has gone digital. Healthcare, banking, emergency services, family communication, even grocery delivery during emergencies. Everything requires some level of technological competency. When you can't navigate these systems, you're not just missing conveniences. You're cut off from the very resources designed to help you maintain your independence. The warning signs include feeling overwhelmed by simple devices like smartphones or tablets, avoiding medical appointments that require online scheduling, missing important family video calls, being unable to access your bank accounts online, or feeling increasingly isolated because staying connected requires technical skills you don't possess. If technology makes you feel left behind, comment number 1 below. You're part of a massive group of men facing this same challenge. But technology isolation is nothing compared to our second warning sign, which could be hiding in your medicine cabinet right now. Number 2, your medicine cabinet might be slowly killing you. This terrifies me because it happens to men who think they're being responsible with their health. Let me tell you about Raymond, a 74-year-old retired postal worker from Michigan. Raymond wasn't a drinker, but after his doctor prescribed pain medication for arthritis, sleep aids for insomnia, and anxiety medication for panic attacks following his wife's funeral, Raymond found himself in a pharmaceutical maze. The problem wasn't taking too much of any single medication. Nobody was monitoring how these medications interacted, especially when Raymond added his nightly whiskey to help him relax. Alcohol amplifies most prescription drug effects, turning safe doses into dangerous combinations. First came increased confusion during the day, which Raymond blamed on aging, then increased falls, attributed to clumsiness. His family noticed he seemed different during phone calls, slower to respond, sometimes slurring words slightly. Everyone assumed normal aging. The crisis came when Raymond's daughter found him passed out in his garage at 3 p.m., having taken morning medications with coffee unknowingly spiked with whiskey from the night before. The combination nearly stopped his heart. This is dangerous for men living alone because there's no second pair of eyes watching your medication routine. You might take pills twice, forget whether you've taken them, or not realize that your evening drink creates a toxic cocktail with prescriptions. Warning signs include increased confusion, more frequent falls, family noticing changes in speech or behavior during calls, feeling more tired than usual, or having trouble remembering daily routines. If you're using alcohol to cope with grief, pain, or sleep problems while taking prescriptions, you're playing with fire. Drop number 2 if this hits close to home. Number 3. The money skills that built your nest egg can disappear overnight. This hits men especially hard because we've spent our lives being financial decision makers. When this ability slips, it challenges everything we believe about our competence. Meet Arthur, a 79-year-old former accountant from Texas who managed million-dollar budgets during his career. Arthur's downfall started small, paying bills twice, forgetting to deposit checks, making impulsive purchases that didn't make sense. His family trusted his financial judgment completely. The wake-up call came when Arthur's son discovered his father had given $38,000 to a telephone scammer claiming to be from the IRS. The same Arthur who protected clients from financial fraud for decades fell victim to a scam he would have spotted immediately 2 years earlier. Cognitive changes had affected his judgment without anyone realizing it. Financial cognitive decline often happens before other symptoms become obvious. You might still carry normal conversations, remember old stories perfectly, and seem completely competent in most areas. But the brain part handling complex decisions, weighing risks, and processing new information begins failing first. Warning signs include paying bills multiple times, falling for scams you would have recognized before, making large purchases without clear reasons, forgetting financial obligations, having difficulty understanding bank statements, or becoming confused by changes in familiar financial processes. Living alone amplifies this risk because nobody questions unusual financial decisions or notices when patterns change. Family members often don't want to interfere with financial independence until damage is done. Arthur's story ended with his son taking over all financial responsibilities, devastating Arthur's self-worth. The tragedy is that if cognitive changes had been recognized earlier, safeguards could have protected Arthur's money while preserving his dignity. Comment number 3. If you've noticed any changes in financial thinking. Number 4. You're literally wasting away and don't realize it. This warning sign disguises itself as loss of appetite or not needing much food at our age. But what's happening is slow starvation that steals strength, mental clarity, and eventually your life. Let me tell you about Eugene, a 76-year-old retired mechanic from Ohio. Eugene had always been a big man, 220 pounds of solid muscle from decades of physical work. After his wife passed, Eugene's relationship with food changed completely. Cooking for one felt pointless, grocery shopping became overwhelming, and meals became whatever required least effort. Eugene's daughter noticed loose clothes during monthly visits, but Eugene insisted he was fine. What she didn't see was Eugene's daily reality. Cereal for breakfast, if he remembered. Maybe a bologna sandwich for lunch. Whatever frozen dinner was cheapest for dinner. Some days he'd forget to eat entirely. The crisis came when Eugene fell in his bathroom and was too weak to get up. He lay there 16 hours before a neighbor found him. At the hospital, doctors discovered Eugene had lost 57 pounds over 8 months. His body had literally begun consuming muscle tissue to survive. Malnutrition in older adults doesn't look like movie starvation. You don't necessarily look skeletal. Instead, you lose muscle mass, Immunity weakens. Thinking becomes clouded. Balance deteriorates. And simple tasks become exhausting. Your body cannibalizes itself while you're still eating something daily. Warning signs include unexplained weight loss, feeling weak or tired more often, getting sick frequently, losing interest in foods you used to enjoy, finding cooking or grocery shopping overwhelming, or noticing simple physical tasks becoming harder. Living alone makes this exponentially worse because there's no social aspect to meals, no one to cook for, no one to notice when you're not eating properly. Men especially struggle because many never learn to cook. Relying on wives or partners for meal planning? Drop number 4 if you've noticed changes in eating habits or energy levels. Number 5. Social isolation is killing more men than heart disease. I'm putting this here because it connects to everything else and makes all other warning signs worse. Loneliness isn't just feeling sad. It's a medical emergency destroying men's lives at unprecedented rates. Meet William, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Arizona. After his wife died from Alzheimer's following a brutal 7-year decline, William found himself completely alone for the first time in 51 years of marriage. Couples they socialized with felt awkward, including just William. Church attendance dropped because sitting in their usual pew alone felt unbearable. His poker game ended because he couldn't concentrate. William's days became eerily predictable. Wake up, coffee, morning news. Stare out the window. Lunch if he remembered. More television, dinner, bed. The phone rarely rang because William stopped returning calls from friends trying to reach out. He convinced himself nobody wanted to spend time with a depressed widower anyway. William didn't understand that his isolation was literally rewiring his brain for danger. Chronic loneliness triggers the same stress responses as physical threats. His immune system weakened, sleep patterns deteriorated, blood pressure spiked, and cognitive abilities began declining faster than normal aging would explain. Research shows chronic loneliness has the same health impact as smoking 15 cigarettes daily or being severely obese. It increases dementia risk by 50%, doubles heart disease risk, and makes you 4 times more likely to die prematurely. Unlike smoking or obesity, loneliness is invisible, so families often miss it until damage is severe. Warning signs include withdrawing from activities you used to enjoy, declining invitations, spending entire days without meaningful human conversation, losing interest in personal appearance, feeling like nobody would miss you, or believing you're a burden to others. Living alone magnifies loneliness because there's no built-in social interaction. Every conversation requires deliberate effort. Every social connection needs active maintenance. And when you're already feeling low, that effort feels impossible. Comment number 5, if loneliness has been your silent companion. Number 6, memory problems aren't just inconvenient, they're dangerous when living alone. This terrifies me because it strikes at the core of who we are as men. Our minds have been our tools, our survival mechanisms, our entire lives. When cognitive abilities start failing, especially when you're alone, simple forgetfulness becomes life-threatening. Let me tell you about Donald, a 78-year-old retired engineer from Nevada. Donald had always prided himself on his sharp mind, could still calculate complex measurements in his head, remembered project details from decades ago. But small changes started creeping in that he dismissed as normal aging. Forgetting appointments, misplacing items, occasionally losing track of conversations. The crisis came on a Tuesday evening when Donald left soup cooking on the stove and went to lie down for what he thought would be a quick nap. He woke up 6 hours later to smoke detectors screaming and his kitchen filled with smoke. Donald had no memory of cooking anything and was confused about why smoke alarms were going off. The pot had boiled dry and was on the verge of catching fire. That incident led to others. Donald taking blood pressure medication twice in one morning, forgetting he'd already taken it, getting lost driving to the grocery store he'd shopped at for 15 years, leaving his front door unlocked overnight. paying the same bill 3 times because he couldn't remember handling it. Cognitive decline is especially dangerous for men living alone because these lapses often happen during routine activities when no one is watching. You might forget your cooking, leave appliances running, take medications incorrectly, or become confused about familiar tasks. Each incident creates potential emergency with no one there to intervene. Early warning signs include forgetting recent conversations, asking the same questions repeatedly, getting confused about time or location, having trouble following familiar instructions, experiencing changes in judgment, or getting lost in familiar places. Family members often notice you seem different during phone calls, taking longer to process information, seeming confused about recent events, or having difficulty following conversation. Comment number 6, if you've noticed any changes in thinking or memory. Number 7, the house that protected you for decades is now plotting to kill you. I saved this for last because it connects every other warning sign we've discussed, and it's the most immediate threat to your independence. Falls aren't just accidents. They're symptoms of everything else going wrong. And when you're living alone, a single fall can end your independent life forever. Meet Robert, a 75-year-old retired firefighter from Oregon. Robert spent his career navigating dangerous situations, understood risk assessment, prided himself on being careful and prepared. But his own home had become more dangerous than any fire scene he'd ever entered, and he didn't realize it. The bathroom rug Robert had walked over safely for 10 years became a slip hazard because his balance wasn't what it used to be. The dim hallway lighting that never bothered him became treacherous because his vision had deteriorated. The basement stairs he'd climbed thousands of times became a death trap because his leg strength had diminished and reflexes had slowed. Robert's fall happened at 2:30 a.m. when he got up to use the bathroom, something he'd done every night for years. This time, his foot caught on that familiar bathroom rug, and he went down hard, hitting his head on the toilet and breaking his hip. Robert lay on his bathroom floor for 11 hours before his neighbor noticed newspapers piling up and called for a welfare check. That fall changed Robert's life forever. The head injury caused cognitive problems that never fully resolved. The hip fracture required surgery and months of rehabilitation, but the worst damage was psychological. Robert never regained confidence in his ability to live safely alone. Within 6 months, he'd moved to assisted living, giving up the independence he'd fought so hard to maintain. Falls don't just happen to frail elderly people. They happen to men who are still strong, still capable, still living full lives. But when you combine normal age-related changes with medication side effects, cognitive changes, poor nutrition, and social isolation, your home becomes a minefield. Comment number 7 if you've had any close calls with falls. Final thoughts. The most important lesson from my journey and from watching hundreds of men face these challenges is this: recognizing these warning signs early isn't about admitting defeat. It's about fighting smarter for your independence. Every single one of these 7 signs has solutions, but only if you're willing to acknowledge them and take action before they become crises. Technology struggles can be addressed with simple devices and patient training. Medication problems can be solved with better systems and professional oversight. Financial vulnerabilities can be protected with safeguards that preserve your dignity. Nutrition issues can be resolved with meal planning and support. Loneliness can be combated with meaningful connections. Cognitive changes can be slowed with early intervention. Fall risk can be eliminated with home modifications and strength training. The tragedy I see too often is men who wait until one of these warning signs creates a crisis that forces family members to make decisions for them. By then, choices are limited and often involve giving up the very independence they were trying to protect. Here's what I want you to do right now. Honestly assess which of these 7 warning signs resonates with your situation. Don't wait for a crisis to force your hand. Start the conversation with your family today. Contact your doctor about concerns. Research local resources. Take control of your aging process instead of letting it control you. The strongest thing any man can do is admit when the battlefield has changed and adapt his strategy accordingly. Your independence doesn't have to be all or nothing. Getting help doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Tell me which warning sign hit closest to home. Share your story or ask questions about what you're facing. I read every single comment and respond personally because your experience matters. If this video opened your eyes to something important, subscribe to this channel and share it with any man who needs to hear these truths. The life you save might be your own. Remember, growing older is a privilege denied to many. Let's make sure we do it with wisdom, courage, and the support we've earned through decades of taking care of others. Thank you for trusting me with this difficult conversation. Stay strong, stay smart, and never stop fighting for the life you want to live.